Look at him. He's so smart.
He's perfect. He has your nose.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. On a peaceful morning in their small kitchen, Toan and Tudim began talking about something very special, choosing a name for their first baby who is about to arrive. If it's a girl, what should her name be? If it's a boy, which name would carry the most meaning, luck, and happiness? Each name they mentioned wasn't just a name. It was filled with the dreams, hopes, and love that Toan and Tudim want to give their child. After that, the two of them started cleaning the house, fixing up every little corner to get everything ready for the new member of their family. But while they were happily preparing for the future, an unexpected moment happened that left them both deeply emotional. What exactly happened on that special morning? Watch the video until the end to fully experience the warm moment shared by Toan and Tudim. And if you enjoy heartfelt family stories like this, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to follow Toan and Tudim's journey as they prepare to welcome their baby in the upcoming episodes. Early in the morning, soft sunlight gently filtered through the small kitchen window. The house felt quiet and warm. On the stove, a pot of water was just beginning to simmer its steam, slowly spreading through the small room. Tudim sat by the wooden table, her newly trimmed hair framing her face and making her look fresh and younger. Toan walked into the kitchen after washing his face outside in the yard. When he saw Tudim, he paused for a moment and then smiled. Her new hairstyle surprised him. She used to keep her hair long, but today it was cut shorter softly, framing her face. Toan looked at her for a moment and nodded with quiet approval. He told her the new haircut made her look much younger. The unexpected compliment made Tudim feel a little shy. She gently touched her hair, her eyes lighting up with happiness. It had been a long time since she had felt this relaxed and cheerful. The two of them sat down together at the small kitchen table. A simple breakfast was placed between them. The calm morning atmosphere made them feel closer than ever. After a while, Toan looked at Tudim and brought up a topic that made them both laugh, choosing a name for their baby. He said that since yesterday, he had been thinking about many different names. Each one carried a beautiful meaning, like a wish for the child's future. Hearing this, Tudim became curious and leaned slightly closer to listen to the names Toan had been thinking about. If it were a girl, Toan suggested the name Lykudiem, hoping their daughter would grow up with a peaceful, gentle, and happy life. Tudim smiled when she heard it. She said it was a beautiful name, but she also had a name she had loved for a long time. If it were a girl, she wanted to name her Diem, a name that represents gentleness and intelligence. They looked at each other and laughed, realizing that each of them liked a different name. Then Toan talked about the possibility of having a boy. He wanted to name him Min Koi, hoping the child would grow up strong, intelligent, and responsible. Tudim thought for a moment before suggesting another name, Jia Bao, because to her, this baby was the most precious gift their family could ever receive. They continued talking like that, bringing up more and more names. The small kitchen filled with laughter. Outside in the yard, the morning sunlight had grown brighter. Inside that small house, Toan and Tudim still didn't know whether their baby would be a boy or girl. But they both knew one thing: this child would be the greatest happiness of their lives. After the conversation about the baby's name paused for a while, Toan stood up and looked around their small house. In one corner, the old table had started to wobble slightly, making him think for a moment. With a baby about to arrive, the house needed to be a bit tidier and more secure. He walked out to the backyard, where some leftover wooden boards from their previous home repair were stacked neatly against the wall. Diem followed behind him, curious. When she saw Toan measuring each piece of wood, she slowly realized that he was planning to build a new table. The quiet morning suddenly felt more lively. Toan carefully used a saw to cut each wooden board according to the measurements he had just taken. The steady sound of the saw echoed through the calm yard. Small pieces of wood fell to the ground, and the fresh scent of cut wood drifted through the air. Diem didn't just stand there watching. She helped hold the boards steady, while Toan cut them, occasionally handing him the hammer or the box of nails. The two worked together naturally, as if they were already used to doing everything side by side in life. After the boards were cut, Toan began putting them together to form the tabletop. He carefully hammered in each nail, the firm tapping sound echoing clearly with every strike. Slowly, the shape of the table began to take form. Diem stood beside him, her eyes lighting up as she watched the small table gradually come together. It would be the place where they sat to drink tea, share meals, and one day where their baby might crawl and learn to stand. Finally, Toan wiped his hands and stepped back to look at the result. The wooden table was simple, but sturdy and neat. Diem smiled with quiet satisfaction. In that small house, every piece of furniture wasn't made only of wood and nails, but also of the care and love being put into a family that was slowly taking shape. The morning continued quietly after Toan finished building the small wooden table. The sunlight had now spread across the yard, warming the ground and the wooden walls of the little house. Inside, Diem wiped the table gently with a clean cloth, while Toan moved a few stools closer. The house felt different now, more prepared, more alive. Just as they finished arranging the new table, the sound of light footsteps came from outside the gate. A familiar voice followed. "Hello, is anyone home?" Diem immediately recognized the voice and looked toward the door with surprise. "That sounds like Toan," she said softly. A moment later, Toan appeared at the doorway with a bright smile. She carried a small woven basket in her hands and looked cheerful as always. When she stepped into the yard, her eyes immediately noticed the changes around the house. "Well, look at this," she said, glancing around. "You two have been busy this morning." Toan smiled and wiped the dust from his hands. "Just fixing a few things around the house," he replied casually. Toan walked closer still, looking around with curiosity. Then her eyes suddenly stopped on Diem. She paused for a moment. Her expression changed from curiosity to surprise. "Wait a second," she said, narrowing her eyes playfully. "Did you cut your hair?" Diem touched her hair shyly. "Yes, just a little." Toan stepped closer and looked carefully at her. "Oh, wow," she said with genuine excitement. "It looks beautiful." She gently turned Diem's face slightly to the side to see the haircut better. "This style really suits you. It makes you look younger and brighter." Diem laughed softly, a little embarrassed by the attention. "Really?" "Of course," Toan replied. "You look wonderful." Toan stood nearby, watching the conversation with a small smile. Hearing someone else praise Diem made him feel quietly happy. Toan finally placed the basket on the new wooden table. "I brought some fresh fruit," she said. The market had very sweet oranges today. Diem thanked her and quickly brought 3 small cups of tea. Soon the 3 of them sat around the new table in the yard. Toan ran her hand across the wooden surface. "Did you make this?" she asked Toan. He nodded. Just finished it this morning. Well, it's solid, she said approvingly. You're getting better at this. Toan laughed. I had a good helper. He glanced at Diem. Tufan noticed the look between them and smiled knowingly. There was something warm and calm about the way they sat together. It felt different from before, like something had quietly changed in their lives. For a moment, they simply enjoyed the peaceful morning. Birds chirped softly in the trees nearby. The sunlight flickered through the leaves above the yard. Then Tufan suddenly looked at Diem again. Her expression became thoughtful. I don't know why, she said slowly, but you seem different today. Diem tilted her head slightly. Different how? Tufan leaned forward a little. I can't explain it exactly, but you look happier, calmer. She paused, and somehow brighter. Diem lowered her eyes and smiled softly. Toan noticed the change in her expression. Tufan looked from Diem to Toan and then back again. All right, she said playfully. Something is going on here. Diem laughed nervously. What do you mean? Tufan crossed her arms with a teasing smile. You two look like you're hiding a secret. Toan and Diem exchanged a quick glance. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The quiet lasted just a few seconds, but it was enough for Tufan to become even more curious. Oh no, she said dramatically. Now I'm absolutely sure. She leaned closer across the table. Tell me. Diem felt her cheeks grow warm. She looked at Toan again. Toan gave her a small encouraging nod. It was a silent signal that it was okay. Diem took a gentle breath. Then she looked at Tufan. There is something we want to tell you, she said softly. Tufan's eyes widened. What is it? Diem placed one hand slowly on her stomach. Her voice became quieter but filled with emotion. I'm pregnant. For a moment, Tufan didn't react. It was as if her mind needed a second to understand the words. Then suddenly her eyes opened wide with shock. Wait, what? Diem laughed shyly. I'm carrying Toan's baby. The words hung in the warm morning air. Tufan covered her mouth with both hands. Oh my goodness. She looked from Diem to Toan and back again. Are you serious? Toan nodded calmly, though the happiness in his eyes was obvious. Yes. Tufan stood up so quickly that her chair scraped the ground. This is incredible. She rushed around the table and hugged Diem tightly. I'm so happy for you. Diem laughed as she hugged her back. Careful, she said gently. Oh, right. Tufan quickly loosened the hug, but kept holding her shoulders. Her eyes were shining with excitement. How long have you known? Not very long, Diem replied. We just confirmed it recently. Tufan looked at her stomach again with amazement. I can't believe it, she said. You're going to be a mother. Then she turned to Toan. And you? You're going to be a father. Toan rubbed the back of his neck with a slightly shy smile. Yes. It still feels a little unreal. Tufan laughed happily. This is the best news I've heard all week. She sat down again but still looked full of energy. So that's why the house is being fixed up, she said. Preparing for the baby. Toan nodded. There's still a lot to do. Tufan looked around the yard again, imagining the future. A baby in this house, she said softly. That's going to bring a lot of life here. Diem gently placed both hands on her stomach again. Her expression was peaceful. We were just talking about names this morning, she said. Oh, really? Tufan leaned forward excitedly. Tell me, Diem laughed. There are already too many options. Toan added, we can't agree yet. Tufan clapped her hands. This is wonderful. She leaned back in her chair, smiling at both of them. The morning had started quietly, but now it was filled with excitement and warm conversation. The little house felt brighter than ever, and somewhere in that peaceful moment, A new chapter of their lives had truly begun. Then suddenly her eyes opened wide with shock. Wait, what? Tudim laughed shyly. I'm carrying Toan's baby. The words hung in the warm morning air. Tufan covered her mouth with both hands. Oh my goodness. She looked from Diem to Toan and back again. Are you serious? Toan nodded calmly, though the happiness in his eyes was obvious. Yes. Tufan stood up so quickly that her chair scraped the ground. This is incredible. She rushed around the table and hugged Diem tightly. I'm so happy for you. Diem laughed as she hugged her back. Careful, she said gently. Oh, right. Tufan quickly loosened the hug, but kept holding her shoulders. Her eyes were shining with excitement. How long have you known? Not very long, Diem replied. We just confirmed it recently. Tufan looked at her stomach again with amazement. I can't believe it, she said. You're going to be a mother. Then she turned to Toan. And you? You're going to be a father. Toan rubbed the back of his neck with a slightly shy smile. Yes. It still feels a little unreal. Tufan laughed happily. This is the best news I've heard all week. She sat down again but still looked full of energy. So that's why the house is being fixed up, she said. Preparing for the baby. Toan nodded. There's still a lot to do. Tufan looked around the yard again, imagining the future. A baby in this house, she said softly. That's going to bring a lot of life here. Diem gently placed both hands on her stomach again. Her expression was peaceful. We were just talking about names this morning, she said. Oh, really? Tufan leaned forward excitedly. Tell me, Diem laughed. There are already too many options. Toan added, we can't agree yet. Tufan clapped her hands. This is wonderful. She leaned back in her chair, smiling at both of them. The morning had started quietly, but now it was filled with excitement and warm conversation. The little house felt brighter than ever, and somewhere in that peaceful moment, a new chapter of their lives had truly begun.